This probably segues beautifully into this funny, kind of serious story about a patient who I took care of back in medical school. And was written a note that said, this patient has really grandiose thoughts, right? Kind of delusions, like delusions of grandeur is how we would describe it in psychiatry. The delusions were stated, so in psychiatry and in psychology, mental health in general, usually add a lot of direct quotations that patients use as a way to express, almost kind of give you a sense of what it's like to talk to that person, because that would help us communicate the quality or the flavor of their reality. And this person had written it, and I think it was, I've got something Lambos, something hoes, and this is so
But
funny.
do they have the Lambos?
It was a rap lyric. This patient was rapping a song, and this clinician thought the patient was saying, I have all of those things, but they were rapping a song.
No way.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the second part of our episode on over and under diagnosis. Thanks for joining us again. On this episode, you can expect to discuss over and under diagnosis and how it reflects across socioeconomic class and cultures, why that is, and how you can recognize it in your life or that of friends and family. We also have some interesting real life examples that would surprise you. And lastly, we close out the episode with our very first and inaugural part of Media on My Mind. It's a really fun part of the episode, and I can't wait to hear what you think. As usual, please like, subscribe, and share with family and friends. We are so glad you're joining us. Cheers.
Nice. We're talking about just some of like the impact of over versus under diagnosis, and like some tips and tricks, or I guess not really, like there's no trick to it in it. It's really just tips for providers or like family members, for patients, like for providers, definitely like, levels of like cultural competency. I feel like that really is just like job competency, really and truly, when you think about it, because like if you don't have competency about like the cultures of the people that you're working with, then how can you be competent at your job? And so just balancing your intuition with evidence as well, collaborative like diagnostics. And then for patients, asking about your diagnosis, getting like a second opinion, someone like to review it for you as well. And also just like tracking your symptoms over time instead of just being like, you know what, bro, I feel like this today. And like, I think that's how I am always, which, okay, also brings me to like a question that I had as well. So run us through like I don't know if you remember this, but what is the like timeline for diagnosing ADHD? Because I feel like that timeline is kind of wonky. You know how people are always like, oh yeah, like, you get diagnosed with ADHD when you're a child, and then like that continues, like, as you're older. But then like when an adult goes to get tested, they're like, have you ever been diagnosed with ADHD? And it's like, no, I haven't. Ultimately, all of that was to say, I feel like people shouldn't be getting tested for ADHD until you're like 18 or 19 or something like that. Like when you actually have like real consequences in front of you, then we can see if you can pay attention or not. And if you can't pay attention in that situation, then that's how we know that,
I was gonna say that's a really hot take.
It's a really hot take.
I think we'll probably get shut down medically for that.
It
We'll
makes
get shut down
sense
for spreading misinformation.
No. This is or anything. What in here? Like rush to diagnosing like children with like ADHD, and it's like, this child is just being a child, bro. Like they're gonna be hyperactive, like they're going to not care about paying attention to the things that they don't want to do because they're a child. They don't understand why it's important for them to pay attention in that way, But like when you have somebody that like they have their job on the line and they have like their relationships with people on the line, and they still can't seem to like get themselves to pay attention about it, or like have the executive functioning to like get their life moving in like a positive direction. I feel like that's when you need to be like, okay, what's going on? You know, like maybe these things can help. But like when you have a child, it's like, how is a child's daily functioning being impacted by them not being able to pay attention? You know, like, I mean, there are ways, but like, you know, does that make sense?
Yeah, I can definitely see your point where it's, you know, let children be children and they'll grow out of it. And if they're
And if
adults
they
still
don't,
struggling, then let's get some treatments rolling. I definitely get that. I think something that happens a lot, a lot of people are scared of, and why children get this focus is there's a concern that if children are unable to pay attention in class or do their homework or learn effectively, they may not get to a point at 18, 19, 20 where they're in university and you're testing this reality of whether or not they're still struggling in attention, or because they may not just make it there, right? They may just flunk out of middle school or flunk out of high school or not make it to middle school because they're so inattentive and unable to really focus or complete a task, right? And you find that there's so many reasons why that is, and I'm not advocating that that is the only way to do it, but when there is like pretty severe functional decline, and by functional decline, I mean there's a really specific and unique hindrance to who that child, like what they can do with their lives compared to if they're quote unquote like normal, right? If they're unable to do any assignments or they're, getting Fs in all their classes, they're unable to sit still or make friends because they're always talking over their friends, or they're always getting punished and attention in school. They're unable to relate with their parents because there's always conflict. They can never get out of bed on time. They're always, losing their homework or losing their keys or losing their belongings or, crashing the parents' cars or, things like that, right? Then there's such a huge functional decline there where you kind of need to do something about it. Now, we can make 10 different podcast episodes about ADHD, and it wouldn't be enough to really dive into how unique and dynamic this illness is, because there's also some research out there showing that some of the ADHD treatment in children may not reflect positive gains in test scores and achievements over time, which is mind blowing,
so like
because
basically
that would mean that it just
all of
makes
the Adderall
them
that
kind
they've
of
been
calm
giving
down.
them is still not helping them get
But
better.
that would mean that it just makes them that would mean that the medication kind of makes them calm down, but it doesn't positively reflect a long-lasting benefit and measures of functional status, which is like test scores and things, which is weird about test scores and job satisfaction, things like that. So, which is really interesting. That's a whole paper we need to like
Do
really kind of
you
dissect.
do
And I
you
think
have
that's
one of
when your
those?
perspective would really come on. How about this? How about we do a whole episode on ADHD? We will have some notes, some articles, and some research papers in the description. So definitely tap in if you want some really academic sounding point that reflects our discussion today.
Okay, so we've talked about like some ways that it plays out.
Can I add one more way?
Yeah.
One more example that is really fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun, kind of funny, but very serious.
Okay.
And this is how there is a difference in the diagnosis of schizophrenia versus a mood disorder. Black individuals versus non-Black individuals. So for example, there are several papers that have come out that have shown that you present the same symptoms, right? In a Black person and a non-Black person, and the Black person is more likely to get a diagnosis of schizophrenia or some disorder related to psychosis versus the non-Black person getting a less quote unquote serious diagnosis.
Yeah. I
Because
mean, dude,
schizophrenia is a pretty intense diagnosis.
Yeah.
That probably reflects probably some of the more kind of intense psychiatric diagnoses that we have
Yeah.
in terms of kind of functional status and kind of like lifetime morbidity. And then all the risks associated with other illnesses, but schizophrenia, due to the level of function decline in a lot of patients, is definitely really up there. So when that happens, a lot of people are saying, why is that? And there are many reasons that have been talked about. One of them is a bias of Black behavior as abnormal, right? Black realities or Black expressions as abnormal. So as a society, we're we're more happy to, or maybe not happy to, but we're more likely to clock that as, delusional, hallucinatory, like a negativism. And these are all, diagnostic criteria for like a psychotic disorder, versus someone else may get the benefit of the doubt, or they may just be depressed, or they may be, hypomanic. I know I'm using all these terms. We will discuss these terms in a different episode, but that is just something, a really kind of
They're
brief
just really
overview
eccentric.
of that idea. Right. And
Yeah.
I'll let you share your thoughts, but I also have one kind of funny story in that regard.
Oh, I thought you were about to tell the story. I was locked in. But no, yeah, 100%. I was gonna say that, yeah, I mean, even just like personal experience. I was in class, we're learning about like one of the personality assessments. It's called like the MMPI. And it's one of like it's like what, like maybe 200 questions about yourself, and then like your responses get charted out and stuff. And one of them was apparently results from the MMPI. Black people were more likely to have like higher levels of paranoia, which is a symptom of schizophrenia. And going through the questions, I was like, you know what? I can see why it would like be triggered that way, because some of the questions were like, I feel like there are people that are actively working against my benefit, or I feel like there are people, like there are concerted efforts like towards my downfall and this and that. And it's like, well, yeah, like everywhere you go, Black people are being like targeted in one way or another, right? And that also now goes to the further level of, sometimes it puts you on such a high level of alertness that like you're now super sensitive to things, which they start labeling as psychosis, when there is a perfectly logical reason for this behavior, But then because of that lack of cultural awareness and lack of like just opening your perspective to like other realities that people are living in, then it starts being a case of overdiagnosis. So yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
I I think that was a beautiful summarization of a real life example, um, integrating a lot of what we talked about earlier, right? The diagnostic manuals, right? The cultural context, and how that differential in experience of the diagnostician and the client, how it can reflect in an overdiagnosis. I really, really love that example.
Yeah, I was legit
I
in class and I was like answering the questions, because we're answering the questions to like practice what it's like to take the test. And I asked my professor and I was like, how do I answer this question? Because I don't think I have I don't think I have ops like the way that people have ops that they're dodging in the grocery store and stuff. But like at the same time, the big beautiful bill is making it difficult for people to gain higher education, and that seems to be on purpose. So there are people that are working against my benefit, It's just not as direct as people may expect all the time. And then and that's just on like my experience. There are people that now have those experiences on like, much different levels. I mean, look at the way like incidents of police brutality are still so rampant, but then also consistently under investigated, and like there are no consequences for that, you know? So I feel like
Yeah.
it's justifiable for someone to be like, bro, somebody's trying to get me, you know? And like, if you don't have that context to like understand what someone is saying in that moment when they say, people are out to get me, and ask further questions about that, then what are you doing practicing mental health care?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you, and I agree. I think it
Yeah.
comes down to cultural competency being equal to professional competency, right? It's not even an option. Like you just
It's not an
cannot choose
option.
not to do it.
Come
It
on.
should be part of your formal training because in America, and even around the world, right? Most societies are multicultural, people from different backgrounds, and you have to be able to understand the context within which your patient lives, right? And this probably segues beautifully into this funny, kind of serious story about a patient who I took care of back in medical school. And, it was written a note that said, this patient has really grandiose thoughts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really grandiose kind of delusions, like delusions of grandeur is
Mm-hmm.
how we would describe it in psychiatry. The delusions were stated. So in psychiatry and psychology and mental health in general, we usually add a lot of direct quotations that patients use as a way to express, almost kind of give you a sense of what it's like to talk to that person, because that would help us communicate the quality or the flavor of their reality. And this person had written it, and I think it was, I've got something something Lambos, something something hoes, something something, and this is so
But do they
funny,
have the
but
Lambos?
it was a rap lyric. This patient was rapping a song, and this clinician thought the patient was saying, I have all of those things, but they were rapping a song.
No way.
So
Wait, wait, wait,
so
wait,
they were
wait,
rapping a
wait.
song.
This is not just a conversation that they were having. This person was just rapping, and they were writing this thing down
Person
as.
was rapping a song, and they wrote it down as this person had delusions of grandeur, and it became part of a diagnostic picture.
Yeah. But then you
Okay.
want to know what's mad?
Now,
Yeah, go ahead and
now
finish the
it
story.
took me. Now it took me to look at him like, wait a minute, like I forget who it was. Like that's like Lil Wayne, or like that's like Rick Ross or something. That's a song, and I think later on we clarified that it was in fact a rap
Mm-hmm.
song, their
Mm-hmm.
favorite song, and they rapped it again, and they were consistent in the beats and the melody and the lyrics. Like, okay, this is just a song,
Mm-hmm.
and that happens, right? Now, one might say, as a clinician, how do you expect me to know all the rap songs, all the different genres of songs that could populate someone's cultural reality, and input that into my framework for diagnosis? Well, the idea is not everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is having enough cultural sensitivity that there's a space in your mind, right, where when someone says something, it can mean something different from what you normally understand. So you give space for additional meaning to someone else's reality than just
Yeah, man.
yours.
That's a wild story because, like, literally, bro, think about that thing, right? Where it's like, if that just stayed in their file, and like, let's say another day, another clinician comes to their room and they're trying to have a conversation with them about their delusions of grandeur, right? Where they're like, oh yeah, so the other day you were telling them, oh yeah, you have all these cars and you have all these things, and the patient just doesn't remember singing the song. But they're like, I didn't say that. Like, when did I say that? You know? And now they're like, yeah, you said it. It's written right here. And now they start becoming argumentative or something, right? Because they're like, I didn't say that. You're trying to like put something in my chart, because people have like medical mistrust as well, you know? And so they're like, you're trying to doctor my situation, you know? Now, them forgetting about that and denying that can also start getting recorded as whatever like symptom of like denying stuff and blah blah blah, and that can also
Memory
just like
issues, cognitive decline.
the way that just like snowballs and just spirals out of control can be so wild and like so impactful on people's lives, you know? All just because someone didn't recognize a Lil Wayne lyric. And so I definitely agree with the fact that Lil Wayne should be mandatory listening for every practitioner at some point.
That is so funny. That is the moral of this entire episode is every doctor and clinician and diagnostician should listen to Lil Wayne, Carter 1 to 6, I think it is
1
now.
through 6.
Every one of them, and all the freestyles.
All the freestyles,
But
you know?
I think you do make a really good point though, as to how it can feel like one clinician made an assessment and the patient's entire, or at least a large swath of their medical history, and our collective understanding as clinicians of who they are is based on this one thing. The beautiful thing, the great thing about this episode or this podcast or something like this is really having us understand that it's not, right? Every single person who meets this person can create space for a whole new understanding of who this person is.
Mm.
That's something else to with diagnosis and how they reflect in this kind of linear thinking over the same trajectory. When you go into a room with a person, you can choose to create a 5-minute space where you figure out who are they? Who are they to you? Who are they in this moment? Right? And hold the other stuff behind. Now, the reason why we have medical history is because history has a good way of predicting the present and the future. But put the history aside to a second. Who are you? Why are you here? What's your reality? Right? Versus what you said earlier when someone came in and the first thing they said was, oh, are you still thinking about owning 20 cars? Or are you still, having all of these blah, blah, blah things? Versus, hey, what's going on? Why are you here? Why do you believe you're here? Right? What is wrong? What is not normal to you? Not what's not normal to me, but what is not normal to you? Have there been any discrepancies in your reality, in your normalcy? And if we can all do that, then it wouldn't matter if one of us missed something here or there. We all miss things, but we all can't miss the same thing. That is where trouble festers, right? And the way we all as providers miss the same thing is when we are all incredibly homogenized. If we all think the same, are from the same backgrounds, or from the same place, the same culture, the same everything, we will tend to think the same along the same lines, and we would tend to have similar blind spots. And that's why diversity of thoughts, diversity of experiences, diversity of realities and culture, those things matter. Because the more people who can see things from different perspectives, the more surface area of patients' lives are covered, right? The more we as a medical system are better able to serve complex and dynamic patients, just Black patients or people from minoritized backgrounds, but people from different walks of life, the farm boy and the city girl and this person from the urban areas, from international people from Africa, from Southeast Asia. You can serve people from different parts of life if the team is well versed in different aspects of life. For example, I could recognize that it was a, Lil Wayne lyric, right? I'm a part of the team, so that was possible. Imagine if I wasn't there and someone who also didn't recognize that, patient was rapping a song wasn't there and just becomes like, oh, this person was just kind of delusional versus I'm there. So
They
that
were
gets
actually
caught.
having a positive
I might have a blind
experience.
spot. Exactly. I might have a blind spot, and then my team member catches it, right? Because I don't know everything. I'm not from every walk of life, so I might have a blind spot. My team member catches it, versus just me. People like me, exactly me on the team. Then we'd all have the same blind spot. So that's why it's so important to kind of have that. And overdiagnosis and underdiagnosis really helps create a frame for understanding the role of clinicians in meeting people where they're at and understanding them from a patient or client centered perspective.
Yeah, dude. I think that's like a really good takeaway message of like, the importance of, having a more comprehensive diagnostic framework. Um, and then also just like a team of people that are like representative of your patient population, because it's essential, to have that, like, people that can see different things, because, we all have different experiences. We all interpret things differently. So yeah, I think that's a great takeaway, multidisciplinary action. But yeah, really cool episode today, man. It's been really fun, like talking about like over and under diagnosis and just people's different diagnostic criteria. I'm still blown away by that Lil Wayne story, not gonna lie.
Hey, man.
But yeah,
It
absolutely
happens
hilarious.
every day.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I'm
So
going to tell some more stories about practice here. I think those things really help us illuminate what it means to be part of a interesting, I won't call it bad, but interesting kind of healthcare system with all the stakeholders and things. I mean, there's so many things that I feel we can all kind of discuss and understand together, because some of these things are wild.
yeah,
So
dude.
lock in for the pod, like, subscribe, comment, send to a friend. This is where you show your appreciation for these discussions and really teach us, right? Teach us what it means to be part of this system and how we can better understand how to care for you.
Yeah. And until next time, adios.
Hey, you're forgetting something, boss. You're forgetting something. Media on my mind.
Oh, fair, fair. Oh wow. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Go first and then I'll go after.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait, first of all, explain what media on my mind is. What is media on my mind?
So it's time for our final part of the show, and it's called Media on My Mind. And it's a play on Brothers in Mind, which is the name of the pod, but it's quite clever that it's Media on My Mind. Anyway, so this is a piece of media over the last week or so that caught our attention and stayed in our consciousness for more than 2 minutes. Because, like, our collective attention span keeps dropping like like a gravitational force. So if a piece of media stays in our mind for more than 2 minutes, that's a joke, by the way. If it stays in our mind for quite some time and we think it's good enough to be shared on the pod, then we bring it up. And my media on my mind for the week is the Formula One movie. Oh my God.
Dude, such a sick movie, right? Wait, we need to
Oh my goodness.
we need to do the timer. 1 minute on the clock, and you can talk about it for 1 minute. So,
Okay.
are you ready?
So, yes.
It's 1 minute, so we're counting down. So 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay. So, for my media on my mind, it's a Formula One movie. And I think one big thing that I took away from the movie is just what it means to be successful. I hope I'm not spoiling this, but for Brad Pitt in the movie, it was interesting how he defined success across his life, right? It became about engaging in things that he loved, regardless of the level of prestige. I thought that was phenomenal. I think it's really important to examine what brings you joy and decouple it from prestige, right? You don't have to spend $100,000 to have fun or enjoy life if you can have the same level of fun and enjoyment when you spend $10, right? So driving in a Baja race in Mexico versus the Formula One track and having the same level of enjoyment, then you start to see things from an entirely different perspective. as to how us as humans can live fulfilling lives across our lifespan. So I thought that was interesting. I have other thoughts, but I think my time is up.
Yeah, your time has been up. But no, fair enough. The Formula One movie was fire, bro. I'm like, I have been expecting this movie like for years because I'm a big Formula One fan. Well, actually, correction. I'm a big Lewis Hamilton fan. Formula One is just one of the things that he does. And so I also pay attention to that as well. But yeah, I definitely see what you're saying about like decoupling the things that bring you joy from like capitalist like gain or prestige. Because yeah, all of those things are just going to distract from like, that thing actually bringing you joy. That's why I get so pissed off when people are like, "Oh, you have this hobby, you should make it into like a business." I'm like, no, bro. Like, not every hobby of mine needs to be making profit somehow. Like, let me just enjoy knitting to knit. Like, I don't need to start selling clothes, Like, whenever I talk to people about loving sim racing, they're always like, oh, you should like stream it and you should like, try and get into like competition somewhere, this and that. And I'm like, nah, bro, I just enjoy driving. Let me just enjoy my driving. So yeah, really cool media on my mind.
That's a very good one. Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Just the inaugural, media on my mind came with a banger. Don't clap, don't clap. You don't have to clap. Please don't clap.
Nobody
I
was
would be so
clapping.
embarrassed if you clap. Don't clap, don't clap.
Nobody clapped. Did anybody hear any clapping? But no, okay. We're gonna transition on
All right, what's yours? What's yours? What's yours?
to my media on my mind. I guess I'm also gonna run a movie. But the Superman movie that just came out, fire movie, dude. Fire movie. I
All
went
right,
and saw it.
pause. Big man,
You're
pause.
taking from my 1 minute, bro.
You have 1 minute starting now.
I thought my 1 minute already started. But yeah, super fire movie. I got to go see it in IMAX 3D. Insane. I think it was important for like brothers in mind, just because of like the resiliency that he has like mentally, and then like the source of that as well. Like he is the strongest person in the like on the planet, but he's also learned from his parents how to just like be soft on the inside as well. Like be a human being, even though he has access to all of that power, and how that differentiates him from the humans that, because like they aren't as powerful, they have devised ways to, for what feels like is the better way to survive, by like, always clawing at each other and like just trying to pull people down. So yeah, it was really cool to like see that like difference and like the directions that people choose depending on if they're strong or if they're weak. I know I passed that like limit, but I was like, you know what,
You
bro?
are
Fair
way
enough.
past the time. You are way
Because there was just so much to say about it. I think I spent way too much of
by
my
like a
time.
mile and a half.
I spent like half of it talking about the IMAX 3D thing, but like, cause it was so cool,
I'm
bro.
like, bro,
It was so cool.
then
Like,
you should have media on my mind should have been the IMAX 3D technology, okay? Because you literally blew a minute talking about it.
but like,
So
I
if
wanted
we're
to talk
run
about
it
the
back,
Superman movie.
you gotta pick, boss. You gotta pick. Anyway, thank you for that. As you know, I still haven't watched the movie, but I've heard a lot of things. I'm really also somehow, someway you didn't spoil it, which is great. Good job.
Cause yeah, no
I'm gonna
spoilers.
try to see it maybe this coming week, and we'll see. And if I see it, maybe we can do a little dissection of the Formula One movie and the Superman movie on a pod episode. That way we can kind of hop in. I think there's so many really cool psychological / psychiatric flavors in these movies, especially including like a lot of guys, both young and across lifespan, that would be worth kind of thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you think about the dynamic between Lex Luthor and Superman, like, Luthor is literally just a hater because he feels like Superman is stronger than him,
You can't spoil the movie, boss.
I mean, it's like a typical Superman dynamic. If Lex isn't a hater, then it's literally in the trailer. Don't worry, these are no spoilers. I'm a very big like anti-spoiler person. That's also one of the reasons why I don't
Mm,
use subtitles, because I feel like subtitles are just like mini spoilers of the conversation. Because then you end up like reading what the
interesting.
person is gonna say, and then you're like saying it in your head already before the person actually gets to say it, you know? And like they can say it in a different speed or different tone. But now instead of just appreciating what the person is saying, you're like formulating it in your head already, you know? So yeah.
That's a really good point, yo. And I think just by saying that, you have convinced me to not use subtitles anymore.
Nice.
So onward, I'm gonna credit you for this, for better or for worse. If I end up
Nice.
hating movies forever, it's gonna be your fault. And if I end up loving them forever, you have a small role to play in
Hey,
that.
there's
You
definitely a
see what I did there?
transition. Yeah, I did,
If I
but
hate it,
then
it's your
I will
fault.
take
If I
it.
don't hate it,
It's your fault. Yeah. Or it's because of you making this amazing decision to listen to what I said. But yeah, there's a transition period for sure. But once you get your TV sound settings right, it's a good time. Like you become so much more engrossed in like what's going on. But yeah,
yeah, different episode,
there's a
entirely
lot
different
of like
episode.
important lessons that men can learn about like their masculinity and like the way they work with other men as well. And like the way you approach leveling yourself up when you're comparing yourself to other people without becoming a hater. You know, don't hate the fact that this person is successful. You know, figure out how you can get there as well, because it's possible. Yeah.
Hey,
And it's
that's
crazy how that
a
also is a direct line in Formula One as well. But yeah, we will do
it's a
that
bar,
comparison.
and it just means that we have to look out. It just means you guys have to look out for our next episode. It's gonna
Yeah,
be excellent, and it'll have themes um through
you
some of
know,
the biggest moves of the year so far.
I'm down for that to be the
It'll
next
be great.
episode,
It'll be
actually.
great.
Yeah.
Big man, let's wrap up. Uh, definitely like and subscribe if you made it to the end. You're the best. I personally love you. You are
Wow, man.
incredible, and my brother just blew you kisses, so I can't think of a better present than that. I will not blow you
Definitely.
kisses, but I will tell you that you are incredibly valuable to me, and I'll think about you every single day for the next 2 days. Regardless, like and
If we
subscribe,
get
and if you
paid
made
for
it this
this
far,
video,
share with someone who you love.
if we get paid for this video
Say what?
where I'm blowing people kisses, is that prostitution?
All right. So this is where we end this end.
Questions that need answered. All right, y'all. That was Over and Under Diagnosis with the brothers in mind. Thanks for stopping by and sticking through the first part and the second one. We hope you enjoyed and learned so much from it. We'll see y'all in the next episode.
Peace.
Always peace.
That was awesome. That was awesome. That was great. We should